Hi everyone, my name's Andrew Allen and I work for Campbelltown Library, and today I'm going to be talking about our next Only in Campbelltown tour. Today we're looking at quirky Campbelltown, and I'm going to be talking about the convict-built cattle tank and reservoir behind me here. So back in the early days of Campbelltown settlement, water was a really major issue. Very little water around. The Nepean River was too far away, the Georges River was too far away, and water was in very, very high demand but very short supply. So the townspeople got together and worked out a solution. They tried to find a suitable site to store water and build a dam or reservoir. And they chose this site here in Allman Street in Campbelltown. So today I'm going to be talking about both the cattle tank and reservoir, so follow me. I'm now here at the wall of the convict-built reservoir. Now this reservoir apparently always had water in it, apart from 1 year in 1867 during the Great Drought. So it's lasted all this time. The sandstone bricks were very well made. It was made to last, and here we are around about 180 years later and it's still standing. So the reservoir was started in 1838. They started building in 1838 and they finished it by about the middle of 1839. And by the winter of 1840, the reservoir was full of water. So the water came from two creeks that flowed in the reservoir. But the topography of this place has changed a lot. And in the 1960s, the reservoir was drained and virtually had no water in it by that time. It wasn't always used for water conservation. In fact, after 1888, Campbelltown got its water supply from a different area. So the reservoir was no longer needed for Campbelltown's water supply. But the reservoir was still used, and in 1917 there was a huge regatta. They called it Jack's Day, and people came from all around the area. There was a procession from the train station, and you can imagine people all along the sides of the reservoir enjoying the day. There was even sailboats on the water, people were swimming. It was a fantastic day. So now let's head over to the cattle tank. And here we are at the cattle tank. Now it's believed that the cattle tank was built at the same time as the reservoir. So 1838 is the year that we are given for the commencement of the construction, and it was also finished in about 1839, so the following year. Now the cattle tank is a little bit downstream from the reservoir. There's a spillway that separates both of them. As you can see, it's still in pretty good condition. It was restored in the 1980s, but it was well built and it's still in good condition today. So the cattle tank was used to obviously feed stock, or to provide water for stock, I guess. It's also got a little bit of a tragic history, the cattle tank. In 1925, a young girl by the name of Lynelle Johnson was playing here with her sister. She was only 7 years old and she tragically drowned. But 10 years later, history repeated itself again when a girl by the name of Betty Humphreys ran from her house over here in Demerrick Street. Betty was having some issues, some mental issues at the time, and ran out of the house screaming and jumped into the cattle tank. Unfortunately, she wasn't able to be saved, but a brave young man by the name of Jack Haddon tried to save her. He jumped in, but it was too late. And Jack received a bravery medal for his heroism. I've spoken to a few old-timers of Campbelltown who have some interesting stories about the cattle tank. Apparently there used to be fish and eels swimming around until fairly later on in the time. And when the water used to disappear, the eels and the fish would disappear as well. And when the water came back, the eels and the fish would also come back. So maybe they hid in the mud, who knows? In the 1930s, there was a belief that they could make it into a swimming pool, a big swimming pool for Campbelltown. So they had an idea of concreting in the base, cleaning it all out, and it was going to be the next glorified swimming hole for the town. But it never happened. The cost was too much and they had to abandon the idea. And Campbelltown had to wait 30 more years for their own swimming pool. So it's got an interesting history and it's certainly a significant part of Campbelltown. It's now heritage listed along with the reservoir, and it's something that our town should be very proud of.